All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Kicking It Back with Matt. Tonight we're being joined by my newfound friend, fellow Liverpool fan, John Connell. John, welcome to it. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Cool, man. You ready to kick it?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Sweet, 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 sweet. So, how did you become a Liverpool fan?
Goes back to actually when I was a kid growing up playing soccer. I moved to New Jersey, started playing the local youth setup, uh, and the trainer of our team actually had a son about my age. They moved over from Ireland. Um, I became very good friends with them. They kind of introduced me to the world of European soccer, and they said there was only one rule: I can root for anyone I want as long as it's Liverpool, and they kind of set me on my way, and luckily so, because about 2 years later was the Miracle of Istanbul, and after that, you got no choice. You're a fan for life.
So, that's really kind of around the same time that I fell in love with Liverpool. I went to the old Giants Stadium. Liverpool was here on a summer tour playing Real, and it was still
Oh,
when Michael Owen was on the team, and I saw him and I saw Stevie G, and I just fell in love with the team. And Gerard he's my favorite player now of all time.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember just watching that game, the Champions League final, and being with my friends for that one, and seeing the emotion in the room in the first half, and just how devastated everyone was, and then second half comes out, Gerard's running around like a madman, going into tackles, just pulling the team through by the scruff of their neck. And the first one goes in, and it's like, okay, we got some respect. Second one goes in, you start to believe. Third one goes in, and it's like, oh my God, can this happen? Um, and then you get to the penalties, and good old spaghetti legs coming through, and the rest is history. I mean, they made movies about it. People still talk about it to this day. It's got to be one of the most famous European nights of all time, if not the most famous.
I would argue it is, right.
I mean,
Just because,
especially look at who was on that AC Milan team. That AC Milan team has some of the all-time greats. Forget the greats of their era. I mean, you're talking Ballon d'Or winning Kaká, who was the last player to win it before the Messi and Ronaldo dominance. I mean, that when people talk about an Italian defense being, the high standard, it's that AC Milan team that they're talking about. It just top to bottom, they've filled with superstars.
but where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Absolutely, and I mean, you hear some of the stories about the locker room at halftime, um, and before the coaching staff gets in there, Steven Gerrard going around and telling everyone like, "Hey, you know, this is my team, this is my life, this is everything to me. Like, we have to go out there and give it our all." And man, I mean, you can't talk about it without getting emotional. I mean, if you're a fan,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I go back a lot and watch that, on YouTube, just because of how fascinating it was and how they just came out in the second half and they just looked like a completely different squad. And to use your word, Stevie G pulling them for those 45 minutes and saying, "Hey, I'm from Liverpool. This is my dream. This is my life. We're going to do this." And it was just unfathomable. And every time I watch it, I feel like it just gets better and better for me.
I mean, it really is, and especially again, like when you look at the people who are in that Liverpool squad compared to that AC Milan team. I mean, it was a David versus Goliath. I mean, it was unbelievable, and I mean, 3 goals in a game usually blows people away. But to do it in a half in the Champions League final on the biggest stage, I mean, the You got to come walking away feeling like you just took over Mount Olympus after that. Like you're a god at this point.
So let's jump into present day Liverpool. I don't know about you, but after Sunday and yesterday, I'm on cloud nine.
I'm glad you are. Um, I think the fact that they are, dare I say, running away with the league this year overshadows a lot of things that are a little more concerning in the long run. Don't get me wrong. You know, we're in a cup final, in a couple weeks. We're top of the league by 13 points. Champions League, tough matchup with PSG. Let's not kid ourselves, but had great form through this new group stage. You got to be feeling good, but you look at the reality of it. Salah's about to win the Ballon d'Or and then walk out the door for nothing. Um,
You
you know,
think that?
I hate to admit it, but you know, if something was happening, he wouldn't be doing all these little goodbyes in the interviews. And it could be a very clever marketing ploy to, hey, pay me what I'm worth, and that number, he's just going to hold firm until they do. Um, but I'm sorry, if could you imagine what a disaster it would be if, you know, come next year he's at Bayern Munich accepting the Ballon d'Or for what he does at Liverpool this year.
So I don't think he's leaving. I think all of the goodbyes, the subtle remarks he's making, I think it's just all posturing by him to saying, "Hey, I want to stay." Henry and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Really, if he wants to stay relevant, I really think the only club where he can go and that can afford him is PSG. And I don't see him, you know, making his family leave Liverpool, where they've been for 8 years. He's got young kids in school. I just don't see it. I think Liverpool's going to pay him. Now, to go along with that, one day I read that they're 95% of the way there on an agreement. And then the next day I read they're nowhere near.
Yeah, he's out the door talking to, Bayern, PSG, Saudi teams.
I did see a rumor yesterday, Inter Milan.
That would be a very interesting move for both parties. And I mean, he would light up the Italian league. And especially, if his legs are going over the next couple years, it's a slightly slower league. He's got the technicality and the football smarts to stay relevant in it because, we've seen players who go there that are fast and, think they can just outrun it. But, if you're not technical and you're not savvy in that league, you will get found out quickly.
I think
Um,
he would be Ronaldo 2.0 when Ronaldo went to Juventus.
it's very possible, but I mean that's just one of three major pieces that we got to worry about losing. And the only one that I think is even close to saying right now is Virgil.
Well, Trent's out the door.
Yes. And I mean, I hate to say it, but can you blame him? In his best friends playing there, having the time of his life, putting up career numbers. I mean, it's an incredible facility. Their new stadium is, if not the best in the world, amongst the best in the world. And, they're Madrid. They are the standard everyone wants to achieve.
I'm
But
I'm torn. I get it that you want to be the next Galactico, but you're a homegrown
and that's what kills me.
Liverpool kid, and that's
You
where
could be
I'm
you
torn.
could be Stevie G. You could be the next captain. You came through the academy. You could be a lifelong Liverpool legend. One club man. They'll pay you what you want to keep you there. I mean, the problem is he's the best right back in the world by a mile and he knows it. And Real
He didn't.
Madrid
He didn't look.
desperately needs a right back.
He didn't look it on Sunday against Man City.
See, I always run into the issue with Trent of you ask him to do two jobs. You can, if you want him to stay back and defend, you lose what he gives to a team going forward with his ability to move into space, ping those balls, drop the assist into Salah. You know, he can do that defensive role, but you lose so much. So I don't have an issue with him going forward and getting caught out because a team plays a ball in behind because he went forward, ball got turned over, and they quickly press his position and he's on the back foot. Because that's not what we're asking him to excel at. We want him playing the raking ball to Louis Diaz, running free on the other side and drop it on a dime. But you, if any player ever could do both, they'd be worth $500 million. But he's as close as you're going to get right now, and I'll take his ability to pass every single time, especially when he's the best distributor of the ball in the world, playing into right now the best player in the world in Salah. Like that is a unbelievable combination.
Yeah, I guess that my issue more is, Daku on Sunday dribbled by him 11 times. So it wasn't even the ball getting in behind. It was the attacker going right at him and just going right by him.
Doku, I mean, he's one of the best dribblers in the world. I've been a fan of his since the World Cup a couple cycles back with Belgium, and just watching him. I mean, I think he was 17 at the time, and I remember turning to Henry and saying, "Buy him now. He's going to be something else." And then when I saw he signed with City, I was just like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I'm
Because
not.
he is his ability to be direct. It's something, and Louis Diaz has it as well. Um, there just aren't a lot of players that stand up a defender and go, "Okay, I'm coming at you. What are you going to do?" And it's terrifying, especially in today's day and age where, you put a foot half wrong, clip their ankle, it's a yellow card. You can't make a mistake, so you can't dive in. It's advantage attackers, which is exciting, but okay, I'm sorry, I feel my defender bias coming out here, but you can't touch a player anymore without getting a card.
Yeah, I'm going to hate to see him go, but he's going.
Hmm.
I think we all know it.
I'm not as worried as I was if he had left 2 years ago, maybe. But I think the emergence of Connor Bradley and just he looks like he's plug and play. Yeah, he can't ping the ball 60, 70 yards like Trent can, but again, not many players in the world can.
Very few.
But
Yeah,
he's great at getting forward, and I think, you could say he's Trent's equal, if not maybe a slight upgrade on straight up defense. So Liverpool's not going to be they're losing a star, but they're not losing the system,
yeah.
which is a big thing.
I don't think Van Dyke's going anywhere.
He's
I
the one I feel like is the most secure of the three.
and I honestly, for me, John, I would be shocked if Mo left.
From your lips to God's ears, I hope you're right. I mean, again, I'm convinced. He's going to put a 20 plus season together. Um, you know, knock on wood somewhere. They're
I,
in position to win the league. They're in position to win additional trophies. That's a Ballon d'Or candidacy season right there. You can't let them go.
so, what do you think of this? So, in my opinion, what I would do is I would give him a 3-year contract, and I would front load it all into year one. We'll give you 600,000 a week, year one, year two, and year three, 200 a week. He's going to be 33 next year. That gets him to 36. I don't know about you, but if I was 36 years old and I'm making 200K a week playing a game I love, I think I would be content. I would
Hmm.
be in the city where I am beloved. They will build a statue of me one day at Anfield. And I can't recall the last time that Liverpool's had a Ballon d'Or winner.
Was it Michael Owen?
Yeah. So, we're talking 24, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
He
I
would go
mean,
down as a legend.
I like your idea of the contract structure where, you'll get your money, but for our books, we have to do it, something like that. I'm a big fan of incentivizing bonuses like, hey, at 10, 15, 20 goals next year, there's an additional million. Um, you know, top four, big bonus. Win the league again, big bonus. Things like that. Because I'm a big, I'm very fearful of big contracts, especially with aging players.
Yep.
Um, because, sometimes, especially as you get older, you wake up, your body just doesn't do the things that it used to do. And you sit there and you go, hey, I'm making, to your point, $400,000 a week. I just don't want to do it anymore. But I'm making this money, so I'm going to keep showing up. But it's not the same person showing up. I do
I'm
not think Mo is that type of player.
just
But
gonna
I think
say that.
I think you always have to worry about, you know, as a club financially, and we just see so much with financial fair play coming into focus.
But you're gonna have Trent come off the books, right? And
But
if
again,
we're
there's no income coming in; it's just salary. I mean, if he was coming off the books with 100 million coming our way, I'd feel a lot better.
but
Um,
that's not happening. But at least if you're replacing him, I think he's on like 325,000 a week.
he is one of the top four earners.
Yeah, so Connor Bradley's only going to be making,
I think he's on 62, 65, if
yeah.
that.
So like take that difference. I mean, I don't even know really what they have to sell on this summer.
I mean, that's the other thing. The biggest benefit they have going is there hasn't been a lot of expenditure the last couple of transfer windows. So it's not like they've spent 150 million the last two transfer windows and have nothing to show for it. They've, if you think about it, pocketed money because by not spending, they've saved. They've built up a nice little bank. So you would think there is the money to pay these players from the lack of transfers, or at least go out and replace them. The problem is to replace Mo Salah, you need three players. You need a left, you need a right winger, you need a goal scorer, no matter where he comes from, and you need someone who's going to make up 20 assists a year, whether that be a midfielder, whoever the right winger is, or if someone else is going to step up. You would hope that it's going to be a collective, and I got to admit, what I've seen from the midfield this season, especially the last handful of games, the midfield seems to be coming together and really finding their identity. Um, Dominic Zoboszlai, I cannot speak highly enough about him. I mean, he ran something like almost 12 kilometers against Man City and then absolutely collapses at the end of the game. And then if you go watch his goal against Newcastle, they turn the ball gets turned over in Liverpool's 18. Zoboszlai is standing next to McAllister, 5 yards away, inside Liverpool's 18. They play the ball forward. Luis Diaz has the ball on the left wing, and at that point, Zoboszlai is leading the attack
Hmm.
as a striker. He's already made up 60 yards, and then from there, keeps going the next 40, hits the top of the box, pulls a maverick, and goes, if I hit the brakes, they're all going to fly right by me. The entire defense ends up on the 6 yard box, and he's at the top of the 18 going, there's no one within 5 yards of me. Tap it. The best players in the world, it's not the ones who hit the top corner every single time. It's the ones who know where to be and when to be there. I mean, you look at players like Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone will sit there and remember, oh, the free kick he hit from 40 yards out. Yeah, but how many does he have where he's just arriving at the back post and has to stick his foot out because he's in the right place at the right time? We're going to talk about Lionel Messi later. Another perfect example. The goal he scored against SKC. I mean, it's his positioning, it's his know-how on the field. Players like that are so underappreciated because we love the flair. But flair is one thing. I can pull up YouTube and see a ton of people with flair. They would never make it in the league because they don't know where to be and when to do those things.
And that's really something that can't be taught.
I mean,
That's
it can be taught to a certain extent, but you have to have, to your point, you have to have the mind for it. And not everyone understands it. And I mean, just from a spatial recognition ability to be able to look at something and then, look away from it and still know, okay, this was here, this was here, this was here. I mean, that type of memory, spatial recognition, um, scanning alone. There was a study, I want to say 5, 10 years ago, where they followed um, David Silva in a game, and they followed. It was one of the top college prospects, um, both center midfielders, but they looked at how many times they scanned their surroundings in a 10-second period. And Silva was something like 25 to 30 times. So basically, 2, 3 times a second, he's looking somewhere, taking information in. Whereas the top college player in the country was once, twice a second. Just the ability to gather and process that information, that's what takes a really, really good talent to an elite player. And I just think, that goes so underappreciated and so unrecognized sometimes because, again, we all love the flair. And who doesn't? Like, show me a bicycle kick every single day. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's awesome. But there's something special about the guy that plays the ball, 30, 40 yards into space, makes the run, arrives at the back post at the right time, and just taps it home.
Yeah. So I want to transition off of Liverpool, but before we do that, what's your feeling next week? First leg, next round, Champions League,
Ooh,
PSG.
I think out of all teams that they could have been drawn against, it's the one team I did not want. Um, Mainly because they're the other big informed team in Europe right now. They're scoring goals for fun. Um,
They've
but
won. They've played 13 games this year. They've won 12 of them, and in their last 4 Champions League games, they've banged in 18 goals.
I was gonna say the aggregate against Brest was like 7-0 or something like that. I mean, they
Correct.
were, and again, that no disrespect to Brest, they made it to the knockout stages, but you're also making the Champions League for your first time versus the giant of France. I mean, Dembele is he's having a season to remember right now. Um, but the biggest thing I think Liverpool has going their way is, unlike most seasons under Klopp, where it's that high energy, high octane, every game's a 3-2, running yourself into the ground. It's felt very controlled under Slot for most of the season, where I don't feel like the players' legs are falling off at this point, which was always kind of a concern, um, with some of those Klopp teams.
Yeah,
Is could
I
they keep
called
up
it.
that intensity?
I called it the ACDC style of soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Just frantic and fast and never stop.
And I mean, it it was some of the most entertaining soccer to watch, and especially for him to put together those seasons at the same time Man City was putting together those seasons. I mean, that was some of the best Premier League to watch.
They they
Um,
they had 99 points and didn't win the title. I mean, that's insane.
I saw something. I think it's of the top 5 or 6 all-time highest points total. Liverpool have 3 of them and only won the title with one of them. I mean, there's another crazy stat under Klopp. If you changed 4 match results, he would go from 1 league and 1 Champions League to 3 leagues and 3 Champions Leagues
So
in 4 days.
are you are you excited to watch the doc tomorrow?
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I just that team was so it's so beloved in my heart, and just also to get an insight of what was going on behind the scenes and an insight into his mind and methodology and how he turned the club around. It's going to be a let's put it this way. I'll be watching it alone because there's going to be some tears probably.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to watch it. I don't know, are they dropping all the episodes at once, or are they gonna leak these out one episode per week?
I'm really hoping it's all at once. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's once a week because I mean they know the fan base that's going to automatically tune in. Why wouldn't you want to spread it out a little longer and get the eyes that many more times?
I you, and now that I think about it, if you're not a Prime subscriber, if they put it all out at once, you can just sign up for that free trial,
Hmm.
watch it, and be done. So now that I'm thinking about it, yeah,
They'll probably drag it out.
they're gonna drag it out.
I
So
mean,
let's go ahead.
I was gonna say sometimes they do. They'll put like the first two episodes out, at the initial drop, and then leak out the rest. But it's definitely gonna be worth. It's gonna be worth watching. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they decided to divert from just his last season in charge as the gaffer to go back to when it all started when he came on board in 15. So we're going to get that nice longevity of a story,
The
which
full
I'm
picture.
excited for. Yeah. So let's shift gears. Let's go over to Champions League for a little bit. They're off this week, um, but this seeding thing, with this new format, I, I I don't like how Liverpool finishes top of the table, right? For the opening 8 games, they're the number one seed, and then we get PSG.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things that it is a little annoying, but at the same time, it did make the league phase a little more exciting because you did have teams like PSG and Real Madrid, flirting with are they even going to make the playoffs?
Same with Man City.
Exactly. Like so the trade-off of having giants like these teams down towards the bottom is you got some of those smaller teams that they wanted to give a chance to rise up the ranks. Um, think about it. If Aston Villa had been buried in a group with, PSG, Bayern, and Benfica, do they even make it this far? And
No.
that's not a knock on Aston Villa, but that you go in as the number 4 seed from the Premier League, that's a possible group you get. Um, so I do think their intentions with the league phase definitely worked out the way they wanted. I think we are the unfortunate victims of it working the way they wanted, where you can have these bigger teams with lower seeds in the league phase, and now you get, a matchup that could potentially be a semifinal. You're getting it, right after the playoffs.
Well, and,
Um,
and at the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. You got to beat some big guys to get to the final and win it all.
hmm And I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and again, no disrespect to any of these teams, but there's maybe 3 teams on here that you would say you want to play. And again, PSV, very respectful in their own right. Club Brugge, I mean, that game with Aston Villa is going to be a lot of fun. I think they match up very well. Um, and Feyenoord. And again, the big thing with Feyenoord right now is they just hired, I think, Robin van Persie as their manager. So you don't
Yeah,
really know what's going on there.
yeah, they
Um,
did.
but other than that, I mean, you look at the other teams that made it through. Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen is a phenomenal matchup. Um, they're probably looking at each other going, wait a minute, how did this happen? Dortmund Lille, not the most high profile, but again, that's going to be a great matchup. Benfica Barcelona, that Barcelona probably got the advantage finishing second there. Um, but still, you look
But
at
Benfica,
and then you got Real Madrid and Atleti.
yeah,
You got a Madrid derby there. I mean, it's we're at the stage where there is no easy game.
and Benfica is traditionally a very good tournament performing team. They
Hmm.
know how to navigate these legs. I mean, thank God Liverpool's got the return leg, and they're going
Yes,
to Paris for the first leg. Um, I
which
think
is a huge advantage.
that's the benefit for us in that matchup. But
Yes, because
You know,
We
where I'm just going to say this. You know, I'm going to ask for your prediction. We're going to meet Real Madrid, I'm pretty sure, before the final. I think they're on our side of the draw.
That would be a semifinal draw if it comes to be. Which, let's put it this way, I've never been a bigger Arsenal fan than for the next round.
Right. Right. And what's different from back in November when we whooped Real Madrid in the opening round, they're shaping into form.
Yes.
Offensively, Mbappe is starting to go off. So that's going to be, and again, they're the number one tournament tested, played team. They know how to navigate these things, you know, in their
There is something for a player to go out there, and it doesn't matter how bad it's getting for you in a Real Madrid shirt. You get to sit there and go, wait a minute, we're Real Madrid. I mean, there's a reason they've won it. And it kills me because I always joke with friends, if it wasn't for Real Madrid, Liverpool would be Real Madrid because they've knocked us out of it, three finals, multiple quarters and semifinals. I mean, they are the boogeyman for Liverpool in the Champions League, and
that they are.
it does look like they're on a collision course. And to your point, the game earlier this season, it's not the same Real Madrid team, but if they do meet, Real Madrid's going to want revenge, and one of the few stadiums in the world that can match the atmosphere of Anfield is the Bernabeu. That stadium, when that team gets going and those fans get going, they I mean they freeze the opponents. You've seen teams just sit there and crush under that atmosphere. But if any team is used to that and can stand up to it, we've seen it's Liverpool. So
And
if that matchup happens, I'm looking forward to it. But man, that's a rough one.
we've got the experience, in the squad to deal with that pressure. And they'll have that equal pressure coming to Anfield. Look what happened with Barcelona a couple years ago, right?
Hmm.
Where we were down, we were 4-1 after the first leg? Or we were 4-0?
Well, it was 3-0, and we came back to Anfield and won 4-0 to advance.
Yeah. So, I mean, who's your pick to win it all this year for Champions League?
I mean, I think my answer is pretty obvious. I'm going for Liverpool to. I mean, if I want to be honest, I'm going to say they're going to win the treble.
Agreed.
It's. I think everything's looking great. I think credit does have to be given to Klopp for the team that he left Slot, but Slot has put his own identity on this team, and they've adapted very well to it. I mean, he's transformed some of the players. Um, And I just think you look across Europe, there's no one playing better than Mo Salah right now. The defense looks solid. Um, they're comfortable in the league, which I think is a huge advantage because, if they were fighting tooth and nail with Arsenal a point behind them, there's no chance to really rest and rotate players because you're fighting on two fronts. Whereas here, I don't think you can take your foot off the gas, but I think it does give you a little bit of an opportunity. Um, But
Well,
again, I think the tough side is you got to go through PSG, which is not going to be easy. Aston Villa or Club Brugge, whoever advances, not going to be easy. And then you got the potential of Arsenal, Real Madrid, Atleti, even PSV. And that's just to get to the semifinals.
yeah. Um, I'll tell you one worrisome thing that I saw about Arsenal is in their last two games, 33 shots, 3 shots on goal, no goals banged in. I have a feeling the injuries are starting to really catch up with them.
I think it's a little bit of the injuries, and I think also I think Arteta's starting to crack under the repeat kind of storyline of he can't get it done, he can't get them over the line. Because you can see when he's asked about it in the interviews, he's very short to cut that question off. He does not want to talk about it, and I mean, he seems irritated. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you asked me the same question over and over again for 3 years. I'm probably going to get a little irritated, but
But to
I
me,
think he's running out of ideas and he's starting to try to throw things at the wall just to get him to stick. But I don't know. I think they need to get their identity back, maybe get a couple players back in the system. But I just they're falling apart. I would not be surprised if they don't even finish second.
I wouldn't be shocked. To be fair, he has a squad that can win trophies,
Absolutely.
and they're just not doing it. And it's the same cycle on repeat of we'll be hanging around at the top, but can't get over the top, can't
Hmm.
climb that hill. So I think this season's going to close, at least the Premier League. I think the season's going to be over probably by mid-April.
What was it? I mean, mathematically,
They have to win 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10, and that's with everyone. That's with Arsenal going perfect.
That's with
I
Arsenal going.
definitely don't see Arsenal going perfect. We have to play them. Um,
But if what I'm
which would
saying
be
holds true, that game won't even matter.
that's true. I mean, that would be beautiful because if they could wrap the league up with say 5 games to go and just go full sights on Champions League, I would double down even harder on my prediction.
Yeah, I have a feeling, I have a sneaky suspicion that they're going to pull off the treble. Slot will be what, the first manager ever to do it in year one.
Hmm. I mean,
So
I think right now the only manager with a better record through this stage of a season um, is the Jose Mourinho Chelsea squad, which again you're talking about an all-time, and he's right behind him. I think he's 2 points behind him at this stage of the season. Which to come into a team, especially you didn't come in and buy a ton of players. I mean, you came into an existing squad, put your identity on it, and to have this success is it's incredible. I mean, and credit to Liverpool for identifying Slot as the right guy.
and going back to what we talked about with Klopp in that ACDC style of play, for Slot to change that so quickly and to have those players buy in that have been in that Klopp system for so long speaks, even louder to the effect that he's had on this team in this club.
Absolutely, and I mean for some of the established superstars to do it, you sit there and you're one of the best in the world. You should be able to do this. But you look at the effect on the players he's had, like Ryan Gravenberch is a revelation in the center of the pitch right now. Curtis Jones has looked a great player. Kostas Tsimikas coming in and deputizing for Bravo, and I would say even splitting time with him at this point. It's almost a 50-50 split, which is enormous because, I mean, Bravo's great. His experience, his energy is there, but you can see his legs are starting to go. But Tsimikas looks, twice the player he did a season ago. Um,
And let's
yeah,
not
it's
forget about
it's great
Gakpo.
coaching. Oh, my favorite thing about Gakpo is, and again, Louis Diaz and his directness is unbelievable. But to do that, the amount of energy he has to put out, it's almost like Klopp has told him. I mean, Slot has told him, go ahead and just run until your legs fall off for 60 minutes, and then I'll bring Gakpo in. And Gakpo is such a different player while also being direct, but he comes at you in a different way. Like defenders don't know how to go from one to the other. And then you just look at, with the limited minutes he's had and his goal involvement return, I mean, his efficiency is wonderful. It's yeah, I can't speak highly enough about Gakpo.
Yeah,
And then you add Jota into the mix, who's coming back from injury and looks like he never left.
I love him.
He
I'm
is
I'm a big fan of Jota.
there is something about there are some players that just seem to have this ability to dribble out of control and never lose control. where it looks like they take a touch they don't mean or it's unintentional, but the ball ends up exactly where it's supposed to go. He's one of those people where a ball will be coming into him and a player's on his back and he'll just flick it around the corner and it goes right into the path of someone else running on.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you're like, oh, that's a nice lucky touch. Except he does it 6, 7, 8 times a game. And it's just like, no, these are intentional. And it's the deftness of touch. And again, you want to talk about a player who knows where to be. I mean, he's not much taller than me. He's 5'8", 5'9", I think. His ability to win headers in the box because he just finds the space in between two defenders, or his ability to finish because he just, makes the run in behind. Now he's one-on-one with the goalie, slots it right around him. It is so underappreciated at times because we do have a player like Mo Salah who puts in, 20 plus goals a season. But for him to come behind and like put in those, 12, 15 goals a season, especially when you're, playing in cup competitions and he's going in and helping you advance. I mean, he's so valuable to Liverpool. And I remember people were absolutely shocked when we signed him from Wolves. It's like, wait, you spent 35 million on who? And now he's a fan favorite, and for good reason.
And 35 million is great business for a player of his caliber.
I think if you break it down by goal involvement over his contract, it's a quarter million plus a goal, maybe half a million. But he's got to be close to 50 to 70 goal involvements.
And I can't remember the website that I looked this up a couple of weeks ago, but he's only on like 65, 70,000 a week in wages.
Mm-hmm. I think his last contract upgrade was like to 75 or 80. I mean, he is on next to nothing compared to players who score half the goals he does.
So every week on this show, we talk a couple of minutes about Wrexham. We love the whole story. We love the documentary. We love the 2 years in a row of promotion. But man,
Want to talk about a heartbreaker?
the opportunity that they gave away yesterday, you cannot be up 2-0 at home in a cup semifinal.
So it's even more than you're up 2-0 at home in a cup semifinal, which just sounds horrible to say. Like, I think I'm going to need some mouthwash after that one. But it's the way that they lost it. In the 91st minute, you allow a ball to bounce around in your 18-yard box. You have 3 players have a chance to clear it, and you let one player just outwork you to it, bury it, and then at that point, you look at the first penalty. It goes in off the keeper, and then Paul Mullins steps up and misses his. At that point, it was over. All the momentum had gone the wrong way. You could just see the Wrexham heads kind of drop, and I mean, what a stage that would have been. Could you imagine? You're in the National League 2 years ago, and now you have a chance to play in Wembley, and those players have got to be. I don't think anyone was sleeping well last night. Let's put it that way.
Well, and the gaffer put it perfectly. He said all we had to do was get that ball out of the
Clear
box.
You could have put it behind for a corner. You could have put it out for a throw, and best thing you could do is put it 70 yards upfield. Anywhere will do. I mean, it's one of those things they teach you when you're 5 years old and starting out. Where do bad things happen? In front of your own goal. And Wrexham forgot that at the most crucial time.
And I wonder if that will haunt them for the rest of their season.
I really hope not. I hope that they can just kind of look at this as that was a great opportunity. Let's put it behind us. Let's go finish the job we started. It's not the end of the world. It would have been great, and the chance to win silverware is always there. But I think they know there's a bigger goal at hand.
I don't know if they can climb back up into the top 2, but if this doesn't hang around and linger over them, I think they can easily hold on to 3rd.
they'll be in a position to earn promotion. The automatic, I think, is a stretch too far.
Yeah.
But they're in position to have a chance, and that's all you can ask for. I think, and I'm sure it's probably being talked about in backroom conversations, is if they do move up again, you're playing with a much bigger set of fish. The ocean just got a lot more expansive. Do they need to do they need to look at revamping the team and some of these players that we love that have been there for the story of the Paul Mullins? Are they going to be able to hang around, or are they going to lose a little bit of that Cinderella luster because we're going to see essentially a changing of the cast?
Yeah, and you want to know what's crazy? I looked this up last week and I mentioned it on last week's show. Do you know what they get money wise for earning promotion? Just
I
take a
don't.
guess. Take a guess.
Are we talking about the players or the team as a
The,
whole?
the team to move up.
If they move up, it's got to be, I would think, a healthy handful of million, uh, 10 million,
What I found is 4.
4 million. Okay. Which again, I mean, I think a lot of people their perception of money in the game is a little blown out of proportion by the Premier League and the big spenders, and Neymar moving for $250 million and things like that. But I mean, $4 million to a team like Wrexham that was in non-league football a couple years ago that's massive. I mean, if you think about that's the upgrade to their stadium, that's the new field they put in a couple years ago. That's that money back, which means the additional money they've earned through sponsorships, through the shows, through marketing. Maybe they can invest that into the team and keep some of these guys together a little longer and still push for it.
Yeah, if they do win promotion, they are definitely going to have to freshen up the squad, bring in some better talent, to
Hmm.
because it's going to be a lot tougher, you know, going up one more rung on that ladder. You're one step closer to the premiership. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's a completely different world from any other any other level out there, I think, especially the closer you get, because I mean the Premier League's the glitz and glam, especially when you look at a league like the Championship. I mean, you have the glitz and glam players there, but you also have just the hard nose. I've been working at this my entire life, kind of blue collar players, and it's a longer season, and you don't get a game off because, I mean, everyone's looking at the chance of if we put it together, the Premier League's right there. And
Yeah,
they talk about each one of these promotion games being, I mean, the promotion game from the Championship to get that third spot into the Premier League, it's the most expensive game in the world because the person who wins that game, you get more money for winning that game than you do for winning the Bundesliga. That's how much money is in English football. So
it's like 80 million.
I think the payout over the course of for winning the game, the money you get for the following season is roughly 80 million. But
That's
then
nuts.
the money you could get, even if you get relegated the following year, that you get from the parachute payments, over the course of like 3 years, your club's guaranteed to get something like 400 million
Yeah.
from winning one game. It's
It's,
and that's the thing. The goal is to get to that game. Just have a chance to get to that game.
so real quick before we jump out of here this evening, Inter Miami starting off the season great. That half volley by Messi the other night.
It He is such a special player for so many reasons, but not only does he start that move with a picture perfect ball to Suarez in space down on the left wing, but again, he then runs from midfield to the top of the box, gets there, and I mean, people can go out in their yard and try it. Just throw a ball 20 feet up in the air. Try to take it off your chest and land it where you only have to take one step to get it. Just try to do that aspect of it. then try to hit the half volley on an absolute frozen rope. I mean, just those two things. Then try to put them together. Oh yeah, we're gonna add professional defenders and a goalkeeper to try and stop you. He makes it look so easy. It's it's unbelievable. And then just the rest of the game. I mean, Miami ran away with it. I know it ended 3-1, but Kansas City never. They were never in it.
No, and nor did I think they were going to be. And then up next, they're playing a team from Jamaica.
I saw that. Who the Cavalier, I believe they are.
Cavalier. They're
Yes.
they're fourth in the Jamaican Premier League. I've never heard of them before.
I hate to agree with you. I haven't. I think, all signs would think, especially Inter Miami with their star power, should be a easy advancement for them. But, stranger things have happened. I mean, look at the U.S. national team having to go down to Jamaica sometimes. You might not be playing on the best pitch, and that can be the great equalizer sometimes. You get some weather moving through.
And a lot of
Stranger things have happened.
the talk with Inter is the age on those legs. For all that star power and quality that they have, those band of misfits that they all came over from Barcelona.
I mean, they're all 35 plus.
I think they might all be 37 plus now.
Yeah, I think. I mean, Messi might be the youngest one.
Yeah, so I don't know. They're gonna have to manage minutes in little time with these guys at some point, because otherwise, it's what happened in the playoffs last year.
Absolutely.
They're just gonna fizzle out because of fatigue.
I think one of the things we may see with them, especially after winning the Supporters' Shield, setting the record last year, is I think they might be a little smarter as to the MLS format. And okay, we don't need to go and win every single game and run away with the league, setting a record number of points. We just need to be, top four. Get in, rotate some players, save the legs for the playoffs. Exactly that point. Because I mean, towards the second half of last season, Suarez could barely walk, let alone run. I mean, Busquets has never needed to be fast, but it's the MLS. You have some young athletes out there that will run past you, and you got to be able to keep up, or it's not going to work out. I mean, Messi's Messi. He'll be 50 and still just having his way with whoever he wants. He's just that good. But even Jordi Alba, you got to worry about.
So we talked about this stat last week on the show. Messi walks at least 69 minutes a game.
Again, you don't need Virgil van Dijk. You don't need to run far or fast when you're always in the right position.
And that's what makes Messi so great. He can look like he's doing nothing, but he's just watching everywhere on that pitch of where can I go, where maybe the buildup comes from, and let me get to that spot, and I'll just be sitting there like a sniper, ready.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to see him in person a handful of times, and I mean, when he's on the field, it's hard not to just watch him. But if you do, you see so many different things, especially the first 5 minutes of a game. If you ever get the chance, just watch Messi. If he gets the ball, it's a one-time pass very quickly away from him. He is just walking around looking all over the field, just taking in where people are going, where's the space. And about 5 minutes into the game, he starts playing. But again, he's not running around covering, 12 kilometers a game. He's just waiting for his moment, finding his spot in between the line, and then when it's time to strike, he kills you.
Yeah. MLS Red Bull's home this weekend, right?
I will be there.
They're playing Nash.
Nash, yeah, looking forward to that game. I mean, the season opener didn't go the way we want. I think there was a little bit of a MLS Cup final hangover sitting over the team. You got that, a little bit of a new formation with Choupo-Moting coming in. They're now playing Morgan and Forsberg as a two underneath them. But I mean, we saw last year they started a little slow. There weren't too many expectations around them, and the team really hit their stride about about a month or two into the season and made the cup final. I think this year, it's going to be hard to repeat that because you got a little bit of a target on your back after last year's success. But I think they also have a good platform to build on. They've brought in a little more firepower, and hopefully, another year under the manager, they can take another step forward and maybe bring it home this time.
Well, enjoy the game. I appreciate it very much for you coming on. Great talking with you. No MJs this weekend. There's no Liverpool game until next week's Champions League.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate no game because of getting knocked out, but at the same time, not a bad time to have 7 days off before having to play PSG.
Have a great night. We'll talk to you again.
Too. Thank you very much.
Everybody else, follow us on Twitter at Kicking It Back with Matt.